The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus instructed the 12 as follows. As you go, proclaim that the kingdom of heaven is close at hand. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out devils. You received without charge, give without charge. Provide yourselves with no gold or silver, not even with a few coppers for your purses, with no haversack for the journey, or spare tunic, or footwear, or a staff, for the workman deserves his keep. Whatever town or village you go into, ask for someone trustworthy and stay with him until you leave. As you enter his house, salute it, and if the house deserves it, let your peace descend upon it. If it does not, let your peace come back to you. And if anyone does not welcome you or listen to what you have to say, as you walk out of the house or town, shake the dust from your feet. I tell you solemnly, on the day of judgment, it will not go as hard with the land of Sodom and Gomorrah as with that town. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear brothers and sisters, I think as Christians and as pastors, this is one of the texts that we must always refer to at all times. It should be a kind of a basis to go back to. Maybe if you're having a retreat, to go back to this and to read this basis of what Jesus said from the very beginning about mission. And when he sent his apostles, he told them what to do and what not to do. And one of the things that he asked them, commissioning, he says, you must cure the sick, you must raise the dead, you must cleanse the lepers, and you must cast out devils. You must do these things, you must cure the sick. This is one of the sacraments we have, anointing of the sick, raising the dead. I mean, if people have been through situations of hopelessness, it's equivalent to death. So the priest must be able to raise them from that situation, raising the dead, maybe physically or emotionally or spiritually, people who are spiritually dead or emotionally dead. Cleansing the lepers, we would have the sacraments today also, like the sacrament of confession or reconciliation, casting out the demons, bringing people from their sinfulness into righteousness. This is basically what we are called to do as Christians, and most especially as pastors. But there's something really happening. There's something that has gone wrong with this text. Not with the text, but with us in applying this. Like now, practically, I've gone through some situations that has really made me to really question myself and to question the impression that we give out outside there. One time I was walking in Kalobeyam, I remember, and then there's a lady who came to me and she said, Father, please, can you come and bless my husband? But I don't have money. I don't have money. And I felt very sad to hear that, because this is really the impression we have given, that if you do not have money, you are not going to receive the sacraments. If you do not have stipend, if you don't have enough stipend, then you cannot receive you cannot have a priest to celebrate Mass for you. And secondly, this was just recently, I went on the 29th, there is a priest who invited me to join him to bless houses in one of the estates here in Iloilo. And we had to bless a lot of houses, so we were going just from house to house. He was on another side, I was on another side. And then one of the houses that was on the list, I was going inside the house, and then the lady said, sorry, I did not want a priest to bless my house. And I said, are you a Catholic? He said, yes, I'm a Catholic. But your name is in the list. Yes, I don't know who put my name there. I said, but why don't you want your house to be blessed? And he said, I don't have money. I don't have money. And I said, no, I'm not blessing your house for money. I'm blessing your house because I'm a priest. I have to bless your house. If you invite me in, I bless your house, and I'm not going to charge you for anything. It's free of charge. And the lady was very happy to hear that. She quickly invited me in to bless the house. Thirdly, recently somebody wanted to ask for Mass, and he came here. This is not the first time that happens. He said, Father, I want this number of Masses, but how much do you charge for each Mass? Okay? How much do you charge for each Mass? And these are very common things, but it is very heartbreaking to hear that, especially as a priest, because priesthood really can be a very short way to heaven, but also a very shortcut to hell, especially if we do not go to the basis. Jesus is very clear about this. You received without charge, give without charge. If we think about what happens now in the parishes, practically what is happening, one of the greatest problems that we have is always about financial. It's always about the financial committee, those who are taking care of counting money and things, either amongst themselves or with them and the parish priest or with them. It's always around money. It's always about the charges. It's always about what we have to give, what we are not supposed to give. And the question is, did Jesus really start like that? If we think about the person whose feast day we celebrate today, Saint Benedict, he left everything and went to the desert with nothing. Our community as well, as missionaries, at the moment we are talking about, it's a financial crisis after the COVID. Is that really what we should be talking about? It's true, the financial crisis is there, but the Lord of the mission sent us to mission, and he said, take with you no gold, no silver, no copper, anything, because he knows exactly this would be an obstacle to the mission. Starting with himself, he was sold for 30 pieces of silver. That had to do with money. And now, all that we have at the moment is about money, 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 money. And it hits me big time, really, as a pastor, because this directly is coming to us, especially with people outside there who I imagine now are not receiving any of these sacraments just because they find it very difficult to raise money for stipends. And you can understand that. If you think of a common tricycle driver who has to take somebody for 20 pesos, or maybe making, if the day is good, 300 pesos in a day, to be able to save that and just give to a priest as mass stipend, take your work, your allowance for, not allowance, what you have worked for, maybe for 1 week, and just give to a priest. It's very saddening and very disturbing. I say this from the bottom of my heart. When I find that, I find it so saddening. And do not get me wrong, I do not mean that we should not support the church. Even the gospel says that the workman deserves his keep. I'm not saying that we should not support the church, but we should not feel forced. That is an obligation that we must do. If we do not do it, we are going to hell. No, that is not true. I remember also once, I forgot to talk about that, going to medicals. It was one of my first times. And I went and I saw somebody who was in the ICU. The family is still struggling to pay the debts of the hospital, which is still even ongoing. And they are struggling to raise money. You can see how stressed they are, trying to raise money for stipend for a priest who came to anoint. Which is a ministry which we have been given free of charge, which we are to dispatch as well free of charge. There's somebody who said that after the sex scandals in the church, the greatest and the biggest scandal that is going to come would be a financial scandal. That we are beginning to forget the center of our mission, and the center has become money. Money is controlling everything. money is controlling where we have to deliver the sacraments, what we are supposed to do. And this is not only in the Philippines. I remember also recently when my brother died, and I went home for the funeral of my brother. My brother was a chairperson in the development committee. And when he died, the church, the church wrote something, not the church, but I mean members of the committee that I don't know what it is, but they wrote a letter home that my brother has to pay this number of Jews in order to receive a Christian burial. And that is not really little money. And I was just imagining, what about people who can't afford this? And I remember asking the catechist, and he said to me, if that happens, then the priest will not celebrate Mass. They are going to send a catechist to do a communion service, not a communion service, but liturgy of the word for that person. And it really bothers me. If our church has become like that, then we are going back to the time of the simony that led to the Protestant churches coming up because of the selling of the sacraments when Martin Luther wrote about simony. And we have to be very careful that we don't go back to that. The center of the mission, the center of the gospel is Jesus Christ, not the resources that are meant to help us. It has become an obstacle instead. So we have to be careful about that. Stipends are good, but it has to come from the heart. It should not be something that would be the determining factor of whether a Christian is going to receive a service or not. I'm sorry that I'm preaching to the wrong audience. I should be preaching to the priests and the bishops and maybe pastors, because you are not the ones who are going through this. But I think it's a challenge for us as priests, and I hope hopefully if some priest could watch this on YouTube, then it will make a little bit of sense. But I think it's something that we all have to pray about, because it's not a good sign that this is happening. And Jesus warned us about this, and this is why I say we have to go back to this text and receive and try to read back on what Jesus commissioned his first apostles saying. He's saying to them, please, you received without charge, give without charge. How I wish every priest could write that on the doorstep or somewhere where he's going to see that all the time. We receive without charge, give without charge. It's important. Money is good for running of the place, the institutions and everything, but money should not be the center. You remember even in Acts of the Apostles chapter 6, when the apostles said, no, we should not busy ourselves with all these things. Let us therefore ordain people who are going to take care of other things, so that we concentrate on the word, on the liturgy of the word, on how we are to dispatch the services that we have been commissioned to dispatch. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, it might not involve us, but we have an obligation to continue to pray for our church, that we may be enlightened to see the true light and the center of the gospel that we have been asked to preach, the center of which is Jesus Christ.